Hello there, my name is Armando. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to abandon a routine after just one small interruption? You miss one workout and suddenly the whole week feels ruined, or you eat something unexpected and the day feels lost. You skip one task and the entire plan starts to feel like a failure. It's a surprisingly common pattern in the way we think about change, but what fascinates me is not so much the behavior itself, it's the interpretation behind it. Because the moment we treat small deviations as total failure, something subtle happens internally. Momentum collapses, and over time, I realize this pattern has a name: all or nothing thinking. It's a way of interpreting behavior where progress is treated as binary. Either you are doing things right or you have failed. Either you were disciplined or you are not. Either the plan is intact or it has collapsed. And at first glance, this way of thinking can feel strong. It feels principled, committed. It feels like holding ourselves to a high standard. But the more I observed it in myself and in others, the more I began to notice something interesting: that all or nothing thinking creates extremely fragile systems. Because the moment reality introduces even a small deviation, the entire structure becomes psychologically unstable, and reality always introduces deviation. Energy fluctuates, schedules change, unexpected things happen, mood shifts, life interrupts the plan. And human life is not built on stable conditions, yet many of our behavioral systems assume that stability. I recognize this pattern very clearly in my own routines. If I committed to exercising, I wanted the session to be complete. If I set up a schedule, I wanted it executed exactly as I imagined. And when that didn't happen, which of course it sometimes didn't, the reaction was rarely dramatic frustration. It was something quieter, a subtle discouragement, a feeling that the integrity of the routine had somehow been compromised. And that subtle feeling is surprisingly powerful because once something feels compromised, motivation to continue often disappears. And not because the action itself is difficult, but because the mind has already labeled the attempt as unsuccessful. What eventually helped me was a very small change in perspective. Instead of evaluating routines through the lens of perfection, I began evaluating them through the lens of motion. The question then shifted from, did I execute this exactly as planned, to something much simpler like, did I stay in motion? If I only had time for half a workout, that was still motion. And believe me, it's always better to exercise for 10 minutes than not at all. If I adjusted the intensity because my energy was lower, that was still motion. If the week became messy, but I resumed quickly, that was still motion. Progress stopped being binary, it became directional, and direction is far more stable than perfection because direction tolerates imperfection. It tolerates detours, temporary slowdowns, and it rarely collapses completely. All or nothing thinking creates emotional cliffs. You are either succeeding or failing, either disciplined or undisciplined. You are either on track or off track. Instead, directional thinking creates continuity. You may move slower, you may move imperfectly, but you rarely stop entirely. And psychologically, that difference is enormous. Because most people do not fail due to lack of capability, they fail because interruption is followed by over interpretation. The interruption itself is usually neutral, the interpretation is what really derails momentum. When deviation is treated as catastrophe, resumption becomes emotionally heavy. But when deviation is treated as information, resuming becomes simple. And there is also a quiet paradox here. Lowering the emotional stakes often increases consistency. Reducing drama increases durability. You don't need heroic intensity, you need tolerance for imperfection. Over time, I realized something that now seems kind of obvious, that sustainable well being is not built on flawless execution, it is built on resilient continuation. Small steps, gentle discipline, lasting impact. Something to consider.